Stockholders meeting of Ayala Corporation. We will begin with the Philippine National Anthem.
Tumayo po tayong lahat, ilagay ang kanang kamay sa ating dibdib at sabay-sabay nating awitin ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Bayang magiliw, prelas na silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyang tanang mag-ibig, sa manlulupi, kita pasisiil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mumulaw. May hiyak ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal, ang isat ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may magdidilim. Yung panangaraw ng luwal at ipagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Chairman of Ayala Corporation's Board of Directors, Mr. Jaime Augusto Zobel de Ayala.
Good morning. The annual stockholders meeting will now come to order. For the first time in our history, because of the current health crisis, we're holding this meeting in a virtual format. Welcome to everyone, and thank you for joining us. Let me welcome all of you who are joining us in this live webcast of these proceedings. And thank you also to all our stockholders who are participating in this meeting through our voting and absentia system or their appointment of the chair as proxy. Let me just let you know who are joining me as presenters in this meeting. Mr. Fernando Zobel de Ayala, our President and Chief Operating Officer. Jose Teodoro Limcauco, our Chief Finance Officer. Mr. Solomon Hermosura, our Corporate Secretary. Mrs. Celeste Jovenir, our Head of Investor Relations. Joanne Lim, our Assistant Corporate Secretary. Also, two of our independent directors, namely Ramon R. Del Rosario Jr., the Chairman of the Corporate Governance and Nomination Committee of our Board, and Mr. Javier P. Loinas, the Chairman of the Audit Committee of our Board. We also have our Group Management Committee members, Rene Almendras, President of Manila Water, Fred Ayala, who leads our initiatives in education, Mr. Paulo Borromeo, President of AC Health, Mr. Cesar Bongconsing, President of BPI, Mr. Ernest Koo, President of Globe Telecom, Mr. Bobby D, President of Ayala Land, Mr. Eric Francia, President of AC Energy, Mr. Ruel Maranan, President of the Ayala Foundation, Mr. JP Orbeta, our Chief Human Resources Officer, and Mr. Art Tan, President of AC Industrials. The other members of our board, as well as all the nominees to our board and our other officers and the representatives of CC Gores Velayan Company, our external auditor, are joining the meeting through the live webcast. Thank you again to everyone for being here. Mr. Secretary, have the stockholders of the corporation been duly notified of this meeting?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Our stockholders have been duly notified of this meeting. On March 31, 2020, we sent to our stockholders of record as of March 10, 2020, the notice of this annual stockholders meeting and the definitive information statement in three ways. First, by email to all stockholders who have given us their email addresses. Second, by posting on our corporation's website. And third, by disclosure in the Philippine Stock Exchange. In addition, the notice was published on April 2, 2020 in the Philippine Star. Accordingly, Mr. Chairman, our stockholders have been notified of this meeting pursuant to our bylaws, the applicable SEC rules, and last but not the least, our internal guidelines on participation in stockholders meeting by remote communication and voting in absentia under extraordinary circumstances, which are embodied in our definitive information statement that the Securities and Exchange Commission approved.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Do we have a quorum at this meeting?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum and this meeting may proceed. There are present in this meeting stockholders owning at least 657,183,159 shares, representing 75.05% of the 875,701,136 total outstanding shares. Let me also mention, Mr. Chairman, that we will reflect in the minutes the breakdown of the stockholders present in terms of their mode of attendance and the percentage of the outstanding shares that they own, as well as the number of those joining us in the live webcast of the meeting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Though we're holding this meeting in a virtual format because of government regulations that prevent us from conducting in-person meetings, we have strived to provide our shareholders the opportunity to participate in this meeting at the same extent possible as an in-person meeting. Our Corporate Secretary, Mr. Mosura, will now share the rules of conduct and voting procedures for this meeting.
Mr. Chairman, the rules and procedures are embodied in the definitive information statement and in the explanation of agenda items, which is part of the notice of this meeting. I would just like to highlight 5 points to our stockholders who are joining us on our live webcast. Number 1 is stockholders who registered under the voting in absentia and shareholder system or who emailed the company at corporatesecretary@ayala.com.ph by April 15, 2020 of their intention to participate in this meeting by remote communication may send their questions or comments to the same email address. Number 2, Celeste Juvenier, our Head of Investor Relations, will read the questions or comments received before 9:30 a.m. today during the Q&A period, which will take place after other matters under item 8 of the agenda. Management will reply to questions and comments not taken up during the meeting by email. Number 3, as indicated in the ballot for the voting of shareholders, there are 5 resolutions for consideration and adoption by the stockholders in this meeting. Each proposed resolution will be shown on the screen as the same is being taken up. Number 4, stockholders could cast their votes on these proposed resolutions and in the election of directors beginning April 3, 2020 through our voting in absentia and shareholder system. The polls will remain open until the end of this meeting for stockholders who have registered to cast their votes electronically using our voting in absentia and shareholder system. Number 5, and lastly, we have tabulated the votes cast as of April 17, 2020 after the end of the proxy validation process. Those votes are from stockholders owning 657,169,266 voting shares, representing 99.9% of the total voting shares represented in this meeting and 79.58% of the total outstanding voting shares. I will be referring to the results of the preliminary tabulation when I report the voting results throughout this meeting. The results of the final tabulation of votes with full details of the affirmative and negative votes and abstentions will be reflected in the minutes of this meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The next order of business is the approval of the minutes of the annual stockholders meeting held on April 26, 2019. An electronic copy is available on the website of the corporation. I'll now ask our secretary to present the proposed resolution and the voting results on this item.
Mr. Chairman, management is proposing the adoption of resolution number S-01-2020 for the approval of the minutes of the annual meeting held on April 26, 2019. The resolution is on the screen. On the voting results, I am pleased to report that shareholders owning 657,169,266 shares, or 99.9% of the shares represented in this meeting, have voted in favor of the resolution. Therefore, the resolution has been approved.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The next item on the agenda is the annual report, which consists of the message of the chairman, the report of the president, and an audiovisual presentation. At this point, if you'll please allow me to show my taped message. Fellow shareholders, welcome. The events of the past year have challenged the corporate momentum we have built over the last decade. However, history has shown Ayala's resilience across multiple business cycles over the 186 years that we've been in operation. This ability to deal with adversity has been built on our fundamental strengths of adhering to the highest standards of corporate governance, always looking to develop value over the long term, remaining flexible to adjust to changing circumstances, and constantly aligning our business objectives with the broader development needs of the country. These fundamental values have stood us in good stead throughout the years, defined Ayala as a successful multi-business group, and ensured our continuity and relevance throughout the years. While the challenges of the past year have resulted in one of the most difficult periods in our corporate history, it is also during trying times that the strength of our diversification initiatives and massive expansion program are put to the test. Recall that in 2011, the Ayala Group set in motion a strategic agenda that led to the expansion of our established franchises in real estate, banking, and telecommunications to capitalize on the strong momentum we saw taking place in the domestic environment. In parallel, we invested in energy generation as a new growth platform from which we could derive future sources of earnings and value creation. These initiatives have cemented our competitive advantage, maintained our relevance in our markets, and established the foundation for long-term growth and value, regardless of the prevailing macroeconomic or competitive environment. In particular, we have seen how the strong performance of our core business pillars, Ayala Land, Bank of the Philippine Islands, Globe Telecom, and AC Energy, sustained Ayala's trajectory in 2019. Their results cushioned the impact of the setbacks faced by Marina Water in connection with the water supply shortage in the metropolis. Further, these core businesses helped mitigate the slowdown AC Industrials confronted, which arose from headwinds in global manufacturing and the domestic automotive industries. I'm pleased to report that despite the challenging period, our profitability improved 11% to 35.3 billion pesos in 2019. Let me provide a background of the macroeconomic environment we faced during the period to put this year-end review into perspective. Global economic growth in 2019 was at its slowest since the global financial crisis, but developing countries in Asia still recorded strong growth, even as trade tensions dampened the outlook for the region. Here at home, while the Philippines' economic growth of 5.9% in 2019 fell below the above 6% growth that we witnessed over the past 7 consecutive years, it continued to be bolstered by solid domestic consumption, driven by stable inflation, higher remittances, and record low unemployment. This continued to benefit Ayala Land, BPI, and Globe, which remained as the top contributors to Ayala's performance during the year, along with AC Energy, which has been a consistent, significant source of growth over the past 3 years. AC Energy's announced pivot towards renewable energy and the sale of some of its conventional power assets allowed it to recycle capital, recognize gains, pointing us towards an exciting new future. We envision these 4 business pillars to remain as Ayala's core value drivers in the medium term. We have always actively managed our portfolio and believe in constantly rebalancing our business interests to either realize value as opportunities arise or to launch new business building cycles in a specific industry. In particular, we've been proud of what Manila Water has achieved, turning around the East Zone concession and laying an efficient water supply and distribution system for the metropolis despite the absence of new water sources. However, we also need to be flexible, quick, and open-minded to how industries, economic environments, and regulatory agencies evolve. Thus, in February 2020, we invited the Rason Group as a strategic partner in Manila Water. I look forward to this partnership with a group that shares a deep commitment to contributing to the country's water infrastructure development. In AC Industrials, the company experienced a number of geopolitical headwinds, including the US-China trade war and Brexit, that contributed to the world economy's slowest year-on-year expansion since the financial crisis a decade ago. We recognize the acceleration of disruptive changes driven by intensifying competition and the evolving customer demands, which has created a challenging environment for worldwide manufacturing and trade. These have posed operational challenges for the various platforms under AC Industrials. To address this, we're in the process of reassessing AC Industrials' portfolio to identify the pain points, develop solutions, and rationalize the long-term strategic direction of the business. Meanwhile, our social infrastructure portfolio continues to gain traction. AC Health continues to ramp up its clinic footprint with the acquisition of a 100% stake in Healthway Philippines, which operates a network of mall-based multi-specialty and corporate clinics. This complements Family Doc, the largest network of primary care clinics in the country. In education, with the merger of AC Education and iPeople, we have established a group of 7 educational institutions with a combined student population of approximately 60,000 across 28 campuses in Metro Manila and the Calabarzon, Bicol, and Mindanao regions. During the year, the Ayala Group also made great strides in our digital transformation journey. Our digital portfolio includes Zalora, the country's largest fashion e-commerce site with 10 million visits per month and carrying 20,000 fashion brands, as well as its adjacent company Entrego, a technology-driven logistics company that has gained foothold servicing the major e-commerce players in the country. In financial services, we're happy to see that the many touch points that both BPI and Globe have been able to harness to address financial inclusion and facilitate higher engagement from the unserved and underserved segments of the population, including MSMEs and the low-income consumer segment. Between the BPI mobile app and Globe's GCash, the group has been able to reach over 1.9 million banking clients, 20 million registered users, and over 75,000 merchants and partners. Today, the BPI ranks 5th in mobile banking on the App Store and 17th on the Google Play platform. Moreover, I'm delighted to share that our efforts to grow the fintech landscape in the country has gained significant traction, as GCash is currently the #1 finance app in the Philippines on both the App Store and Google Play. While we intend to remain as a Philippine-centric business group, we're open to overseas investments on an opportunistic basis, particularly in markets and sectors where we can bring our strengths and expertise. In November 2019, we acquired a 20% stake in the Yoma Group, Myanmar's leading conglomerate with interests in sectors that are overlapping with Ayala, including real estate, power, and financial services. Myanmar is an unpenetrated frontier market with a promising economic growth story, supported by its government's broad liberalization initiatives. We envision our investment in the Yoma Group to serve as Ayala's main platform for strategic investments in Myanmar. As a final word, the unfortunate episodes that transpired in our country and the rest of the world at the beginning of 2020 have resulted in an existential moment of radical business transformation. The COVID-19 pandemic is adversely impacting many economies, markets, and businesses, and the national and global scale, which has not spared the Ayala Group. Our president and COO will give more color on how the Ayala Group is responding to alleviate some of the challenges our nation is facing from the COVID-19 pandemic. In the Philippines, even before the onset of this global pandemic, the eruption of the Taal volcano in January had already affected certain industries domestically, including real estate and retail within the volcano's vicinity. While the outlook for the business environment has radically changed as a result of these unfortunate events, we take comfort in the fact that we have built a healthy balance sheet at the holding company and across the group that gives us a buffer to absorb external shocks, such as the current global health crisis. We consider this to be one of our strongest attributes, having survived and thrived under multiple crises. It is within this context that I thank our board of directors for their engagement and foresight across a variety of working committees, our management team for ensuring a culture of professional commitment, and our many business partners for their willingness to collaborate with us, and our fellow shareholders for their continued support, trust, and confidence in Ayala. We look forward to a lasting partnership as we weather these uncertain times, supporting our employees and our many stakeholders as we continue to contribute to society through our institutions, our products, and our services. Big thank you to all of you. I now turn you over to our president, Mr. Fernando Zobel de Ayala.
Good morning, everyone. Please allow me to present my report, which has also been pre-recorded. Good morning to everyone. Let me begin by thanking all of you for your continued support and confidence in Ayala. The past year was a trying time for our group as we confronted an unprecedented situation in Manila Water and our Metro Manila concession area. The water supply shortage that emerged in March 2019 impaired the high standards of service that Manila Water has maintained over the past 23 years. Several factors led to this unfortunate incident. While the situation was compounded by low dam levels brought about by the prolonged dry season last year, the main reason for the shortage was the delay in new water source development under the government's water supply master plan. In order to prevent this from happening again, Manila Water is working closely with NWSS and this administration on the timely execution of the water supply master plan. Several medium-term water supply projects are now in various stages of development. These projects will provide additional water supply for the growing water demand of our East Zone customers in the coming years. These initiatives, along with the continued network management and optimization program, has enabled water availability for customers to be maintained within regulatory levels, despite a lower raw water supply. Although we face significant challenges in both our water and global manufacturing businesses in 2019, our real estate, banking, telco, and power units continue to serve as engines of growth. This validates the strength of a diversified portfolio and the expansion strategy we put in place a decade ago. We're happy to report that in 2019, as you heard earlier, Ayala recorded 35.3 billion in net earnings, an 11% increase from 2018. This was lifted by gains from the partial divestment of AC Energy's thermal assets as it moved towards the creation of a larger portfolio of renewable energy assets and the merger of our education arm with iPeople. Our results, however, were weighed down by the recognition of a remeasurement loss of 18.1 billion pesos, arising from a likely reduced stake in Manila Water, whose shareholders are being asked to approve an increased number of shares to open up opportunities for a strategic investor. We believe a partnership with a strategic investor will accelerate Manila Water's long-term strategic direction, including its regional aspirations. Over the past decade, Manila Water has established itself as a major water infrastructure player in Southeast Asia with investments in various platforms across Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia, and today continues to be on the lookout for opportunities in the region. Let me now touch on the performance of our business units in greater detail. Ayala Land continued to reap the benefits of its diversification strategy to achieve a better balance between its development and recurring income portfolio, as well as in its geographic concentration. Its net profits rose 13% to 33.2 billion, supported by office and commercial and industrial lot sales, as well as a growing leasing operation. Ayala Land's geographic diversification continued, with new estates contributing 58% to its bottom line as the development of these new areas accelerates. With over 12,000 hectares of land bank, 29 estates, and a presence in 57 growth centers across the country, Ayala Land offers a balanced and complementary mix of residential developments, shopping centers, offices, hotels, and resorts. These estates contribute to progress and growth in the many communities they serve through various livelihood and entrepreneurial opportunities and increased economic activity. Bank of the Philippine Islands continued to work towards its goal of improving its earnings capacity and shareholder returns by focusing on its core lending business and increasing efficiencies through technology. In 2019, the bank's net earnings reached 28.8 billion, jumping 25% from 2018 on strong core banking business revenues and a steadily growing fee-based segment supported by higher securities trading gains. Consistent with the Ayala Group's thrust to support the growth of MSMEs in the country, BPI aims to reach a greater number of our retail, micro, and SME lending segments, which continues to be underserved today. MSMEs form an integral part of the Philippine economy, making up 99.5% of businesses, 60% of which are micro entrepreneurs. In addition, they employ 63% of the Filipino workforce and contribute 35% of the country's GDP. In 2019, BPI continued to ramp up its microfinance arm, BPI Direct Banco, with 300 branches servicing more self-employed micro-entrepreneurs nationwide. Only 3 years since its relaunch, Banco is now the second largest microfinance bank in the country, having doubled its loan portfolio to 4.3 billion pesos. BPI's SME group, the two-year-old business bank, is likewise gaining traction, particularly in the mass market or loans below 15 million pesos. This segment expanded more than fourfold in approved loan applications, reflecting the bank's dedicated coverage of this customer group. Moving on to telecommunications, Globe continued to benefit from high demand for data-related products and services. The 20% expansion in its net income to 22.3 billion was bolstered by data-driven customers across its mobile and broadband segments. It is worth noting that data-related services accounted for over 70% of Globe's service revenues, which grew 12% to 149 billion pesos during the year. Globe continues to harness an increasingly digitally enabled economy to promote financial inclusion through its mobile wallet GCash. As our chairman mentioned, GCash is the #1 mobile wallet in the Philippines today, with 20 million registered users and over 75,000 QR merchants and partner billers. To enable access to more financial services to the unbanked population, GCash introduced GSave, which allows first-time depositors to participate in the formal banking system. GSave offers a competitive interest rate with no minimum initial deposit or maintaining balance requirement. Moving on to our energy division, AC Energy registered net profits of 24.6 billion in 2019, lifted by contributions from its solar projects in Vietnam and gains from the partial divestment of its thermal assets. AC Energy increased its attributable energy output in 2019 by 25% to 3,500 gigawatt hours, of which 50% came from renewable sources. Given the increasing contribution of AC Energy to Ayala's equity earnings over the past 3 years, we have started to classify AC Energy as one of our core business pillars, together with Ayala Land, BPI, and Globe. As it moves away from thermal energy, AC Energy continues to aggressively build up its renewable portfolio. It ended 2019 with an attributable capacity of over 1,800 megawatts, with 50% of total energy output coming from renewable sources. In addition, it has 1,200 megawatts of various solar and wind projects in the pipeline, bringing it on track to achieve 5,000 megawatts of renewable capacity by 2025. To support these aggressive targets, AC Energy tapped the capital market through the issuance of 2 green bonds raising $810 million in combined proceeds. Moving to Manila Water, as mentioned earlier, the challenges in the East Zone concession weighed on Manila Water's performance in 2019. The water crisis took a toll on Manila Water's profitability, which declined 16% to 5.5 billion pesos. Business performance was dampened by the impact of the MWSS penalty and a voluntary one-time bill waiver program to assist severely affected customers. This was further affected when raw water allocation from the Angat Dam hit its lowest in July. To mitigate this, Manila Water implemented network efficiency measures to maintain service availability and be able to serve more than 7 million people in the East Zone. Manila Water likewise continued to work towards its goal of providing 32% wastewater coverage for the East Zone by 2021. Wastewater coverage currently stands at over 30%, or equivalent to 2 million people served through nearly 400 kilometers of laid sewer network. This was only at 3% before Manila Water took over operations from MWSS in 1997. AC Industrials faced a challenging year due to the difficulties in global manufacturing and the automotive industries. These challenges also included the impact of geopolitical tensions, such as the US-China trade conflict and the prolonged uncertainty on Brexit. These macro headwinds, together with the disruptive changes currently affecting many key industries, have created a challenging environment for worldwide manufacturing and trade. In the electronic space, intensifying competition posed operational challenges for companies like AC Industrials, particularly its anchor manufacturing arm, IMI, and the new platforms, Merlin Solar and MT Technologies. These challenges resulted in longer fulfillment times and higher material costs. Meanwhile, automotive sales likewise experienced weakness, and the industry's megatrends of connectivity, autonomy, sharing, and electrification continue to disrupt the industry. In this difficult environment, AC Industrials recorded a net loss of 2.4 billion pesos in 2019. During these trying times, we take comfort in the fact that AC Industrials retains specialized technical resources, such as advanced manufacturing engineering, as well as proprietary technologies, including power electronics, camera and vision, smart energy, and connectivity, which all serve as the foundation for future growth. Finally, we continue to support our long-term investments in infrastructure, healthcare, and education. AC Infra is building up its logistics and fulfillment arm, Entrego, which posted a compounded monthly growth of 14% in volume throughout the year. This growth was underpinned by the rising demands of the e-commerce and retail sectors for B2B and B2C logistics services. Entrego also launched an automated sorting center to drive operational efficiencies and processes. AC Health acquired a 100% stake in Healthway, one of the leading clinic networks in the country. The addition of Healthway's 7 mall-based multi-specialty clinics and 40 corporate clinics expands AC Health's clinic portfolio, which today includes 74 family doc primary care clinics and 10 corporate clinics. It also expanded its pharma portfolio with new investments in IE Medica, one of the major importers of pharmaceutical products in the country, and MedEthics, its affiliated distribution company. AC Education's merger with iPeople in 2019 has significantly broadened our education footprint. Our student population has grown from 38,500 before the merger to approximately 60,000 students at present. The merger has resulted in several synergies, including leveraging the various schools' complementary strengths to improve the student learning experience and producing greater operational efficiency. As the Ayala Group continued to be optimistic about the domestic macroeconomic environment, our combined capital expenditure reached 215 billion in 2019. At the parent level, our balance sheet remains strong, with enough capacity to support our future investments and cover dividend and debt obligations. In 2019, we paid 8.30 pesos per share in cash dividends, 20% higher than its 2018 level. We likewise took advantage of favorable market conditions to raise capital. These included the $400 million in fixed for life senior perpetual notes with an annual coupon of 4.85% for life with no step up and the 15 billion in preferred shares. In closing, at Ayala, we constantly strive to deliver a more holistic engagement with the communities we serve, and we make sure that we create a meaningful, lasting impact in conjunction with our economic aspirations. This desire to help bridge societal gaps has been embedded in our corporate culture and will continue to define our direction in the coming years. We're fortunate to have so many individuals in our institution who share this thinking and enable its execution across our many companies in the Ayala Group. This kind of engagement from our Ayala citizens is evident as our group, along with individuals and institutions, collectively do their part in responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. In these unprecedented times, it is the Ayala Group's foremost priority to ensure the safety of its employees while at the same time securing their financial health. With this in mind, the group has allocated 2.4 billion pesos in a relief package to assist our employees, including the daily wage earners or no work, no pay personnel. Furthermore, to help mitigate the impact of the Luzon-wide enhanced community quarantine on the urban poor, together with 36 other private institutions, we launched Project Ugnayan to support those who are most in need of help at this time. Through this effort, the consortium has raised over 1.7 billion pesos for food vouchers for more than 1.5 million urban poor families, or approximately 7.5 million of our most vulnerable countrymen in Greater Metro Manila. We work closely with Caritas Manila and the over 600 parishes of the Catholic Church for the distribution of 1,000 peso supermarket vouchers. These efforts are similarly present across our business units. Ayala Land employees have so far raised 71.4 million pesos to help COVID hospitals and Project Ugnayan. In support of the Department of Public Works and Highways initiative and through its construction arm, Makati Development Corporation, a subsidiary of Ayala Land, has recently completed the renovation of the World Trade Center in Pasay into a 500-bed quarantine facility. To aid in the shortfall of personal protective equipment, Ayala, Ayala Land, BPI, and Globe donated to the Philippine Red Cross, who facilitated the distribution of over 200,000 face masks to several hospitals in Metro Manila and other frontliners in the government, as well as 104 PRC chapters nationwide. Furthermore, Ayala and Ayala Foundation have set aside over 15 million pesos to procure additional masks and vitamins for donation to various hospitals and local government units throughout the country, which will be done through AC Health. Meanwhile, Manila Water, recognizing the importance of sanitation in these times, has donated 1,800 hygiene kits and deployed much-needed drinking water to 6 Quezon City hospitals. Globe, mindful that efficient communication lines are necessary in battling this crisis, has donated 500 cell phone units to public hospitals and now provides free internet connection to 68 hospitals nationwide, with free calls to emergency and government hotlines available to all users. Globe has also raised 43 million pesos from its employees and customers through various donation drives to help hospitals. AC Health has more than 1,500 employees in its clinic network who are reporting daily, continuing to operate as extended frontliners and are able to help in the triage efforts of the government and private hospitals. Generica continues to operate and offer medicines at very reasonable prices. In addition, to help our healthcare system with the growing number of COVID-19 cases, AC Health is leading the Ayala Group's efforts to convert Qualimed Santa Rosa into a COVID-19 dedicated hospital. This initiative will cost 150 million pesos. Finally, AC Health will work in a partnership with other external stakeholders to build a COVID-19 testing facility that will give more Filipinos access to testing. Apart from bolstering our support to the healthcare system and our economically vulnerable countrymen, we also continue to ensure that the essential services we manage, such as water, banking, and telecommunications, continue to operate. Select DPI branches remain open with all OTC branch fees and transfer fees to other banks waived during this period. DPI has also offered a grace period and relief options for affected clients with financial obligations to BPI. Manila Water, while operating with a reduced workforce, has been able to continue providing basic services during this time. Likewise, AC Energy's plants are sufficiently manned to operate at full capacity and provide vital electricity to our grids. Meanwhile, Globe is doubling down its efforts to ensure that its network stays reliable and consistent. Through all these efforts, we hope to instill faith and confidence in the Filipino people. The Ayala Group is ready to carry on and support the country in our battle against COVID-19. In closing, Ayala owes its success to the commitment of our shared vision across the whole group's management team and staff, the guidance and leadership of our board of directors, and the trust and confidence of our many stakeholders. We thank you all for your continued commitment and support. Thank you.
Throughout our history, our group has always been committed to helping the Philippines and our fellow Filipinos move forward amidst all the challenges and setbacks. Given all that is happening now, we have greater reason to remain resolute in this endeavor. Please watch this video.
Ikaw ang laman ng isip ko. Ikaw ang inspirasyon ko.
Doon pa man, gusto kong nakikita kang masaya. Malakas. At masigla.
Masaya akong tumatanaw sa bawat pagtuklas mo ng kagandahan sa mundo.
Pinagdiriwang ko ang bawat tagumpay mo.
Marami na tayong pinagdaanan. Sa hirap at ginhawa. Ito'y sabay nating tinahak.
Pagkakataon, tayo'y mapabuti. Landas para umahon ng buhay.
Mahal kong Pilipinas. Puno ako ng pag-asa.
Sa mga pagsubok na ating panghaharapin. At mga pangarap na tutuparin.
Nandito lang ako. Nananatiling tapat sa'yo.
Thank you very much. If I could now ask the Secretary to present the proposed resolution on this item and the voting results, please.
Mr. Chairman, management is proposing the adoption of resolution number S-02-2020 for the noting of the corporation's annual report and the approval of the consolidated audited financial statements of the corporation and its subsidiaries as of December 31, 2019 as audited by its external auditor, CISIP Gores Belayo and Company. The resolution is on the screen. On the voting results, I am pleased to report that stockholders owning 656,519,430 shares, or about 99.8% of the shares represented in this meeting, have voted for the adoption of the resolution. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, the resolution has been approved.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. We now move to the next item on the agenda, the ratification and approval of all the acts of our Board of Directors and officers since our annual stockholders meeting on April 26, 2019, until today. Mr. Masuda will explain this matter and present the proposed resolution together with the voting results thereon.
Mr. Chairman, our board and management seek ratification of all the acts and resolutions of the board, the executive committee and other board committees exercising powers delegated by the board, which were adopted from April 26, 2019 until today. These acts and resolutions are reflected in the minutes of the meetings, and they include the election of officers, members of the various board committees and the lead independent director, the revisions of the company's related party transaction and insider trading policies, updating of list of attorney-in-fact and authorized signatories, capital allocation and disbursement of funds to subsidiaries, declaration of cash dividends and matters covered by disclosures to the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Philippine Stock Exchange. Stockholders' ratification is also sought for all the acts of our officers performed in the general conduct of our business or in accordance with the resolutions of the board, the executive committee and other board committees and of our bylaws from April 26, 2019 to date. Mr. Chairman, on the screen is the proposed resolution, number S-03-2020. On the voting results, I am pleased to report that the stockholders owning 656,207,280 shares, or 99.8% of the voting shares represented in this meeting, have voted for the adoption of resolution number S-03-2020. Therefore, the resolution has been adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The next order of business is the election of the 7 members of the Board of Directors for the ensuing year. Mr. Ramon R. Del Rosario Jr., Chairman of the Corporate Governance and Nomination Committee, has pre-recorded his explanation for this item.
Mr. Chairman, in accordance with our bylaws, corporate governance manual, and charter of the Board of Directors, the following stockholders were duly nominated to the Board of Directors of the Corporation for the ensuing term: Jaime Augusto Sobel de Ayala, Fernando Sobel de Ayala, Rizalina G. Mantaring, Delfin L. Lazaro, Javier P. Loinas, Keiichi Matsunaga, Antonio Jose U. Periquet. Mr. Loinas and Periquet and Ms. Mantaring have been nominated as independent directors. The Corporate Governance and Nomination Committee of the Board has ascertained that the 7 nominees, including the nominees for independent directors, are qualified to serve as directors of the corporation. All the nominees have given their consent to their respective nominations. Mr. Chairman, in closing, kindly allow me a few personal words. Please note that after serving for 10 years, I am stepping down from the Ayala Corporation Board. Allow me to thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the rest of the board, and you, my fellow stockholders, for the honor and privilege of serving on the board of this great institution for these past 10 years. I have no doubt that the future of the Ayala Group will be even brighter in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ramon, and it's been really a pleasure having you also on the board. Thank you for the kind words. Mr. Secretary, may we have the results of this election?
Mr. Chairman, each of the 7 nominees for directors has garnered at least 727,457,396 votes. Given this, I certify that each of the nominees has received enough votes for election to the board, and that resolution number S-04-2020 has been approved. The resolution is on the screen.
Thank you very much. Let me then use this occasion as well to thank you, Ramon. It's been quite exceptional to have you with us. You provided leadership across so many different fronts over the years, Ramon, and not only on the educational sector, on the business sector, and it's been actually a pleasure as well to have you as our partner in many ways. Our first entry into the energy space actually came because of the FINMA Group and the opportunities you gave us, something we will never forget, Ramon. It's been a pleasure having you on board, and we've really so much enjoyed your wise counsel, your advice, and your frankness on occasion. You've been a true independent board member and have given us, both Fernando and I, and the whole management team plenty of advice over the years. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you too, Mr. Chairman. It's been a great honor.
We also maybe like to use this occasion as well to welcome Risa Mantaring to the board, and we look forward to working with Risa as we move on. Thank you, Risa, as well for accepting. The next item on the agenda is the election of the corporation's external auditor. For this, we have pre-recorded explanation of Mr. Javier P. Loinas, Chairman of the Audit Committee.
Mr. Chairman, the Audit Committee evaluated the performance of our present auditor, the firm of Sisig Valayo and Company, during the past year, and we found their performance satisfactory. The Audit Committee and the Board of Directors have agreed to endorse for stockholders' approval the re-election of Sisig Valayo and Company as our external auditor for the present fiscal year for an audit fee of 6,059,200 pesos, inclusive of value-added taxes.
Thank you very much, Javier. Mr. Secretary, kindly present the proposed resolution on this item and the voting results.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, management is proposing the adoption of resolution number S-05-2020 for the election of the corporation's external auditor and fixing of its remuneration. The resolution is on the screen. On the voting results, I am pleased to report that shareholders owning 656,112,201 shares, or 99.8% of the shares represented in this meeting, have voted in favor of resolution number S-05-2020. Therefore, the resolution is now approved.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Secretary, are there other matters that require consideration by the stockholders?
There are none, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. We will now address questions and comments from the stockholders. Our Head of Investor Relations, Mrs. Jovenir, will read aloud the questions and comments together with the names of the stockholders who sent them. As mentioned by Mr. Ormasura earlier, management will reply by email to questions and comments not taken up during this meeting. Thank you once again. If I can open up the floor to Celeste Jovenir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a first question from stockholder Ms. Antoinette Valdez. COVID-19 has forced many businesses to rethink and restructure the way they operate. How has Ayala transformed during this crisis, and how does it see itself adapting to a new norm?
Thank you. Let me tackle that question myself. One thing that we've realized during this crisis, after some quick self-reflection from a group perspective, it is very difficult to plan long-term in an environment like this. We've always thought long-term, we've always focused on the future, but you get a crisis of this nature that affects everyone, both nationally and globally, and there is no existing playbook for this kind of situation. So we find ourselves in a situation where we've had to shorten our cycle of planning and really look at the situation from a much shorter point of view. Let me just divide this up into three segments. The first phase, I guess, of this much more short-term oriented planning cycle as a way of our adjusting to this is really preparing for the entry or re-entry of the workforce. I think the president just announced today that there'll be an extension until May 15th in the greater Metro Manila area. So we have to prepare for the re-entry of the workforce in this period of time. That's the first stage, I guess, of our preparation. There's a chance here also for us to mention that the safety and health of our employees has been a primary concern, both pre-ECQ and post-ECQ, and the same will be as well for re-entry. We're worrying a great deal and thinking through how do we get an employee force back to be productive, but at the same time healthy and safe in this new environment. That is something at the very much at the top of our thinking in this next period. I also just wanted to use this occasion to thank many of the frontliners. I think all of you understand that we're responsible for many of the utilities, services that are required in a time like this by the vast segment of our population. I'd like to really basically thank and congratulate the many frontliners that we have across our group, AC Health, frontliners have been at the forefront. Members from the Bank of the Philippine Islands, Skeletal Force, Globe Telecom, running our telecom operations, Manila Water, the water utility. Many individuals have been putting their life on the line to make sure that these services continue at a time like this, and we're deeply grateful for all the work they're doing. So this is really the short-term nature, really preparing a workforce, number one, to work while this crisis is ongoing to provide vital services, but also to start preparing ourselves to re-enter the workforce. So that's phase one. Phase two would really be ensuring our business resiliency over the few months after the ECQ, and really figuring out how to remain productive in a time like this. There is no playbook, as I said, and we will be spending a lot of time really readjusting to a new work environment as the ECQ lifts. So that's the second phase, I guess, of our planning at this point in time. We will be monitoring consumer behavior, market behavior, industry, regulatory shifts during this period of time, and just make an assessment of how the world has changed for us and how we will need to work, I guess, in this environment. There are going to be so many changes that take place. Obviously, one that's been clear to all of us is the renewed role of technology, I guess, in this new world where we cannot move as freely as we wanted to. We've been absolutely delighted in that respect to see our digital channels, an area that we've been investing in for some time now. I think it's been quite a few stockholder meetings now in the past that we've been emphasizing how much emphasis we're putting on building up our digital infrastructure. It's an issue Fernando and I have brought up time and time again in the past. We're just delighted that now kicks in a whole new way. Just to use two examples, our GCash platforms really have been working very well, as well as our BPI online platforms. Maybe just one statistic, our BPI online banking had more online users in just 1 month than all the online users it had for the full year last year. That has been a massive take-up in demand for these online services at this point in time. We've seen tremendous amount of online users entering the BPI network, and with every passing day, new services are being given out of the BPI online network to cater to the many needs of customers, both from an online transaction point of view and the services that they used to normally from the branch network. It's been phenomenal, and we're very happy about the infrastructure that we built up to support this over many years. It's taken some pain in the past, but we're sure glad that we took the time to do that in the past. In the case of Globe and GCash, it's been quite extraordinary. It's become a favored payment system and a key channel for money flow during this ECQ. There's been a massive uptrend in downloads. GCash now has over 13 million active users and is one of the largest, most downloadable API, I guess, in this crisis. So between the Globe Digital Network and the BPI Digital Online Network, it's been phenomenal to see us be able to cater to the many needs of customers through these new platforms. So technology is really a hugely transformational issue in this next period, and we will have to see over the next 2 months after ECQ how things evolve. And finally, the next phase of our planning, so there's the short term, getting workers back in, the middle phase, 2 months to see how consumers have changed and how the market's changed. And the phase three of our planning will involve what we call the new normal, which will be third quarter and fourth quarter of this year, as we start to understand the situation a little better and then adjust our workforce and our market tactics to this new reality that we then gauge. So in the case of employees, we will have to see how we balance their well-being and productivity, keeping them safe but productive as well. Our customers, how do we retain them over the long term in this new environment? And our operations and financial sustainability, how do we handle those in this new environment? So those three phases really are the way we're looking at the business right now, much more short-term in orientation, but I think will put us in a good stead to really tackle this new environment in a productive, innovative, and intelligent way as we move on. Thank you. Are there other questions?
Yeah, there's another question from stockholder Mr. Marlon Austria. A number of Ayala's companies continue to operate despite the ECQ since they provide essential services. How do you ensure the safety of your employees who have to be physically present in their place of work?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. If I could ask our president, Mr. Fernando Zobel, to address this issue.
Thank you. The safety of our employees is absolutely critical, but before discussing that, let me first say that, as you know, we operate a number of businesses that are vital to keep our society and economy functioning. Banking, water, healthcare, telecommunications, power, and manufacturing all need to continue operating to ensure the delivery of essential services. Our ability to operate during such difficult times is thanks to our incredibly committed frontliners, as the chairman mentioned earlier. Their dedication has enabled us to continue to deliver for our clients, and we draw our strength from them. BPI, for instance, has over 220 branches, or about 25% of its branches open. There are over 1,300 employees and service personnel in these branches. BPI's Banco has 240 branches, or 80% of its branches that remain open. There are approximately 900 employees and service personnel in these branches. For BPI ATMs, there are over 2,500 machines online with over 1,000 BPI employees and service provider personnel servicing the ATMs 7 days a week. As our chairman has mentioned, we have seen from the ECQ how BPI's digitalization efforts have helped so many more clients complete their transactions without having to go to a branch. In Manila Water, we have over 200 facilities operators who are housed within or near the facilities. We provide them with board lodging, transportation, and other basic requirements. We have around 300 frontliners in business areas who are provided with transportation and meals. All Manila Water frontliners are also regularly monitored by our company doctors. We're very happy to say that Manila Water has been operating at optimal levels despite limitations from the lockdown. It has been providing consistent 24/7 water service availability to our customers. In cases of breakages, Manila Water tries to do its best to have the problem resolved within 3 to 4 hours. Meanwhile, AC Health's network of outpatient clinics continues to provide primary care and non-COVID-19 specialty consultations and diagnostics. Healthway and Family Doc have served as triage points for suspected COVID-19 patients. AC Health has screened and referred nearly 6,000 suspected cases, formerly known as PUMs, and over 5,000 suspect cases, formerly known as PUIs, between Healthway and Family Doc. Generica, our genetics pharma stores, continue to operate over 720 stores nationwide. AID also continues to provide home health care and medicine delivery services. Our frontliners carry an enormous responsibility to provide these critical services. We, in turn, have to ensure that they are provided the proper protection as they perform their function at this critical time. Aside from providing them with protective gear, we also arrange for free transportation to shuttle them to and from the premises. The premises are also regularly disinfected, and we make sure there are proper social distancing measures and health check protocols in place.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, Ms. Jovenir?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. There's a third question from stockholder Mr. Mark Malingbayan. From this health crisis, we have seen the massive gaps in the country's healthcare system. How has Ayala's approach in its healthcare business changed, considering the lessons from COVID-19?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Celeste. We have invested quite heavily as a new area, quite substantially in building up a portfolio in the healthcare field under the AC Health umbrella. We do have our executive responsible for our healthcare initiatives, Mr. Paulo Borromeo here. Perhaps we could turn to him to address this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And good morning to all our shareholders. I believe, Mr. Chairman, this crisis has made us realize how timely it was that we entered the healthcare space a few years ago. More importantly, it also renewed our commitment to healthcare, seeing just how critical the healthcare sector is in protecting our people and in building the nation, and how we as a group need to step up in a more relevant way to help improve our country's healthcare system as we move forward into a COVID world. Just to mention, Mr. Chairman, that early on and throughout this crisis, AC Health has been at the forefront for the group, tracking the pandemic, creating health advisories and policies for the entire Ayala Group. And more importantly, we've been leading the charge on critical initiatives, as our president mentioned, to help and protect our patients, our communities, and our employees. Let me just highlight a few. We will continue to strengthen our clinical network to ensure that both our family doc and healthway clinics remain available, both for non-COVID patients, while at the same time triaging COVID-related cases accordingly. Second, during the crisis, we have innovated and will continue to create new services based on evolving patient needs. For example, we converted our Healthway Greenbelt Clinic into a chemo infusion facility in recognition of the need of cancer patients and oncologists for a safer alternative. We will ramp up our online health and home services, which we are doing through AID and MedGrocer, recognizing that more patients need digital and remote access to care, at-home services, as well as online medicine delivery. And we are excited about our offerings in the health technology space. Fourth, we're also working very, very hard to increase the capacity and the capabilities of our pharmacy distribution and retailing businesses, specifically with IE Medica and Generica at the lead. We recognize, Mr. Chair, that reliable access to medicines and vitamins will be even more essential moving forward, and we thank our franchisees and our distributors for their unending support. Finally, just to say that we've invested a significant amount of capital both in building testing and treatment facilities for our employees and the broader community. As our president mentioned, we upgraded Qualimed Santa Rosa to a COVID referral hospital and are working closely with our partners led by Dr. Edwin Mercado to explore enhancements to its other hospitals. We're also providing testing facilities for our employees and their families, both in the form of rapid test kits and confirmatory PCR tests. This will be particularly important for our 12,000 frontliners across the Ayala Group who brave the risks day in and day out to serve our customers and to whom we are extremely grateful. And to echo what our chairman said, safety of our employees is our utmost priority, and we will make sure that we provide the right protocols and services to keep our employees safe. In closing, Mr. Chair, just to say that throughout and beyond this ECQ, AC Health has led and will continue to lead the charge in developing services and facilities for our patients and employees across the entire Ayala Group. As we move forward, rest assured we are committed to having a relevant leadership role in helping improve our country's healthcare system and are committed to providing even more access to affordable medicine, testing, and treatment for our communities. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Paolo. We look forward to continuing to help in any way that we can. But as you point out, Paolo, it's been serendipitous that we've had a chance to build up a healthcare practice at a time when the country needs it so much. Celeste, do we have any other questions from the floor?
That was the last question, Mr. Chairman. However, we also received questions from stockholders Mr. Alfred Reiterer and Mr. Roy Imata, but because of the detailed answers required, we will be responding to them via email.
Thank you very much. I hope they'll understand. We will reply by email as suggested. Thank you. So if there are no other questions, we basically can conclude, I guess, this morning's proceedings. The meeting is hereby adjourned. The link to the audio and video recording of this meeting will be posted on our website so people can have a chance to review it or see it fresh if they did not have a chance to attend. Stockholders may raise any issue or clarification and concern about this meeting within 2 weeks from the posting of the link by sending an email to the corporate secretary at ayala.com.ph. It's up there on the screen if there are any issues. But let me again, on behalf of the whole Ayala Group, thank you for joining us here today. It's certainly a challenging time for everyone, but I hope we can continue to do what we can to help each other out. We can get through this if we all work in unison. This is a time where we have to work both public and private sector together and see what we can do, certainly within the Ayala Group. Not a day goes by where we don't give each other support and see what we can do, not only to serve our customers, but also to see if we can address the pain points of the community at large. Thank you very much for having joined us today. Please stay safe, and we look forward to your joining us at the next stockholders meeting. But in the meantime, we wish you well. Thank you very much.